Quick thing before we start, if you're still watching these videos and haven't hit like yet, this is one of the easiest ways to support the channel. It doesn't cost you anything, but it makes a huge difference in whether these stories get pushed or buried. Alright, let's get into it. Every Christmas Eve, my family usually goes to the old holiday market downtown. The one with the temporary ice rink, fake snow machines, and those wooden stalls that sell burnt almonds and hot drinks. It's been a tradition for as long as I can remember. Loud, crowded, predictable, safe. The afternoon before we went, I drove out to see my girlfriend. I told my little brother I'd be back soon. I meant it. I planned to stay maybe an hour, 2 at most. But traffic backed up on the 2-lane road I took. Construction cones, flashing orange lights, cars crawling like they were afraid to move. I tried calling my brother to tell him not to leave without me, but my phone died right as it started ringing. When I finally got home, the house was dark, every light off except the porch light, glowing weak and yellow like it was tired of being on. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. No voices, no TV, no music, just that hollow quiet houses get when everyone leaves at once. I charged my phone and immediately called my brother to ask where they were. He sounded confused, then surprised. He told me I'd texted him earlier saying I wouldn't make it and that they should go on without me. I told him my phone had been dead. He swore he still had the message. I didn't think much of it. I should have. But at the time, all I felt was relief. The house to myself. Christmas Eve. No plans. I went downstairs to play video games. Our dog was stretched out in the hallway outside my room, asleep, her chest rising and falling slow and steady. About 20 minutes in, she exploded into noise, barking, scrambling, nails clicking hard against the floor, a low, frantic whine that made my skin tighten. I pushed my chair back and stood up, already annoyed, already halfway to calling her name. Then I heard it. "Ah, that's a good girl." A man's voice. Calm, close, not my brother's, too deep, too relaxed. I said, "Oh, you're home early," assuming it was my dad's friend who sometimes crashed on the couch. As I opened my door, the sound stopped. The hallway was empty. The dog stood there, wagging her tail, eyes locked on the far end of the hallway, not looking around, not confused, focused, waiting. I stood there longer than I should have, listening. The house made its usual noises, pipes ticking, the low hum of the fridge upstairs, but nothing else. No footsteps, no voices. The dog eventually sat down, still staring, tail thumping softly against the wall like she was expecting praise. That was the first break in the pattern. I told myself someone must have stepped outside. Maybe I imagined the voice, maybe exhaustion plus Christmas stress. I shut my door and went back to my game, volume higher than usual. 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed. A text from my brother. "Why are you home already?" I stared at the screen, then typed back, "I never left." 3 dots appeared, disappeared. Then who just texted me from your number? That's when the air in the room felt different. Not colder, just alert, like the house had noticed I was paying attention now. I opened my door again. The hallway light was on. I don't remember turning it on. The dog was standing this time, ears up, body stiff, not barking, just watching. I walked halfway down the hall, calling out names. Nothing. The Christmas decorations, garland, blinking lights, a half-inflated Santa, looked wrong without people around, like props after a show ended. Then I heard movement upstairs, slow, deliberate. A drawer sliding, closing. I stopped. My thoughts started racing, trying to stay logical. Maybe my family came back early. Maybe someone forgot something. I climbed the stairs, one step at a time, hand brushing the wall, heart knocking harder with each sound. At the top, the guest room door was open. The light was on. The bed had been disturbed, not slept in, pressed down like someone had leaned there. On the desk was my phone, unplugged, screen dark. I picked it up. The battery was still dead. Behind me, the dog growled, low, warning. And from somewhere close, too close, I heard the same calm voice again, softer this time. "She's very well trained." I didn't turn around. I didn't answer. I walked backwards down the stairs, slow, steady, every sense stretched tight. The dog stayed between me and the hallway, teeth bared now, sound building in her chest. The front door was still locked, the porch light still on. When my family came home an hour later, everything was normal. No signs of anyone else, no unlocked doors, no missing items, except my brother showed me the text one more time, sent from my number, time-stamped while my phone was dead. It said, "Running late, go without me, I'll stay home." Every Christmas Eve since then, I leave with my family. No detours, no goodbyes. And I never stay in that house alone anymore, because whatever knew my words knew exactly when to use them. Christmas Eve has a way of turning familiar places into something slightly unreal. That year, I wasn't traveling. No family dinner, no long drive, just me, a rented house on the edge of a coal town in western Pennsylvania, and a thin layer of snow that made every sound carry farther than it should. The town shut down early that night. Porch lights came on, curtains closed. By 9, it felt like the whole place had agreed to go quiet together. Behind my place, past a sagging fence and a line of leafless trees, stood another house. It wasn't exactly next door, just close enough to notice if you stood still and looked. People in town didn't avoid talking about it exactly, they just never said much. They said the owners left years ago, somewhere south, maybe Missouri or Arkansas. The details were always fuzzy, offered in the same vague way you talk about things that aren't worth digging into. What everyone agreed on was this: the property taxes were somehow still being paid. No "for sale" sign ever went up. No locks were changed. No one moved in. It just existed, quietly, like everyone had agreed to look past it. That should have been enough to leave it alone. But Christmas Eve has a way of pulling your attention toward things that don't make sense. I'd noticed small details before, snow piling on the roof but never clinging to one upstairs window, lights in my own house reflecting off glass that should have been dark. And that night, with nothing else demanding my focus, curiosity finally won. I grabbed a flashlight and gloves. I told myself I'd only check the outside, just enough to satisfy the question and be done with it. The basement window was already open. That was the first real break in the pattern. Old houses settle, sure, but windows don't shift themselves open in winter. I stood there longer than I meant to, listening. Nothing, no wind, no movement, just quiet. I climbed inside. The basement air felt held, not stale, contained. My breath fogged immediately. Shelves lined the walls, stacked with boxes that looked organized, not abandoned. Then my light landed on something leaning against a crate. A guitar, full-sized, acoustic. The wood was dusty, except along the neck, where fingerprints had disturbed the layer just enough to be noticeable. The strings were rusted, but intact. I brushed one without thinking. The sound came out wrong. Not broken, just tired, like the house didn't approve of being disturbed. I stepped back. The rest of the basement felt like a life paused mid-thought. Military items carefully stored, holiday decorations boxed and labeled, paperwork tied together, instruments scattered like someone couldn't decide which version of themselves to keep. On a shelf sat a cracked wedding frame. The photo was gone. The glass bowed inward, not shattered. That detail stuck with me. Upstairs was worse. The main floor looked like someone had stepped away during a normal evening and never returned. Plates by the sink, food left on the stove. The refrigerator hummed when I opened it, still working. Inside were drinks that should have been dumped decades ago. The lights were on. That was the second break. Electricity doesn't just stay on forever. Someone had either left in a hurry or never meant to leave at all. I moved toward the stairs. Halfway up, I heard crying, soft, controlled, like someone trying not to be heard. It didn't echo, it hovered. The sound stopped as suddenly as it started, and the silence that followed felt intentional, like the house was waiting to see what I would do. I took another step. A door upstairs opened on its own, slowly. That was the moment everything inside me shifted. Curiosity turned into conflict. This wasn't something happening around me anymore. It was reacting. I walked forward anyway, carefully. The room was bare, a mattress on the floor, one chair facing the corner, a window cracked open, letting winter air slip inside. The crying started again, closer. Then I realized something that made my thoughts stumble. The sound wasn't coming from the room. It was behind me. I turned. Nothing there. But the crying continued, drifting, changing direction, like it wasn't tied to a body at all. My flashlight flickered once, just enough to spike panic through me. Then I heard footsteps downstairs, slow, heavy, coming up. That was escalation. No more reasoning, just instinct. I ran, down the stairs, past the kitchen, straight for the basement window. The crying followed, not louder, not closer, just constant, like the house refused to let it fade. I scraped my arm climbing out, didn't notice until later. I didn't stop running until I was back inside my place, door locked, lights on, heart racing. I never went back. But every Christmas Eve since, when the town goes quiet and snow dulls the world, I hear something drift through the trees. A single guitar string, flat, wrong, like someone still practicing for a night that never ended. I was 19 when I spent a winter living on a piece of land most people didn't even know existed. It wasn't a town, not really. It was a stretch of property perched above a highway, far enough back that the sound of passing trucks arrived late, soft, hollow, like the memory of noise rather than the thing itself. The house sat halfway up a long, uneven slope, surrounded by scrub trees and old fencing that had been repaired more times than replaced. I was there to look after my grandfather while he recovered from surgery. He couldn't be alone, and everyone else in the family had jobs, kids, excuses. I had none of those yet. So I packed my things, drove out there a week before Christmas, and told myself the quiet would be good for me. There were no nearby neighbors. One family lived somewhere beyond the ridge, far enough away that their porch light looked like a star when it was on. Other than that, the only signs of life came from the highway below. Cars, semi-trucks, the occasional engine brake echoing up the hill at night. We didn't have cell service, no internet, no landline. Out there, phones were just glass rectangles. The property had 2 gates, both kept locked, one at the base of the hill and another closer to the house. Anyone coming up had to park, climb, and know exactly where they were going. That's why when someone knocked on the door at 2 in the morning on Christmas Eve, my body reacted before my thoughts did. It wasn't a loud knock. It was careful, controlled, like whoever was on the other side didn't want to wake anyone up. I remember standing in the hallway, staring at the door, feeling how thin the walls suddenly seemed. The house creaked the way old houses do when the temperature drops, and for a moment I tried to convince myself I'd imagined it. Then the knock came again. Same rhythm, same restraint. My grandfather was asleep in the back room, his breathing slow and uneven. I didn't want to wake him. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to acknowledge that someone had climbed past 2 locked gates and up a dark hillside just to stand where they were standing now. I asked who it was. A man's voice answered through the door, calm, too calm. He said he needed to use a phone. That was it. No story, no apology, just a request. I told him we didn't have one. There was a pause after that. Not the kind where someone walks away, but the kind where you can tell they're still there, considering what to say next. He explained his car had broken down on the highway, that he'd seen our porch light from below, that it was cold. None of that explained how he'd gotten past the gates. None of that explained why he hadn't flagged someone down on the road instead of hiking uphill in the dark. I didn't open the door. I didn't approach it. I stood where I was and told him to leave. The pause felt heavier. Then, quietly, he said, "All right." I waited, listened, counted my own breaths. Eventually, I heard footsteps moving away from the porch, gravel shifting, a sound like fabric brushing against wood. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. By morning, there were no footprints. The frost had settled over everything, smoothing the ground into something clean and untouched. It was easier to believe I'd overreacted. I told myself that for years, until the second thing happened. A few winters later, I was living in the city with a roommate. Different life, different place. Brick building, street lights, neighbors close enough to hear through the walls. It should have felt safer. Our apartment had a front door that stuck when the weather changed. The lock jammed, the frame swelled, and after a while we stopped using it altogether. Instead, we came in through the back, a narrow door that opened directly into the kitchen. That door had one of those frosted glass panels in it. You couldn't see details through it, just motion, shapes, shadows. It was Christmas Eve again. Most people were already home, already somewhere warm. The city felt hollowed out, like a set after filming had wrapped. I came home late. The hallway light behind the building flickered the way it always did. I unlocked the back door, and as I turned the key, something moved behind the glass. Fast, low, close. It passed from one side of the kitchen to the other in less than a second. My first thought was my roommate. He'd probably heard me and crossed the room to mess with me or grab a drink. That made sense. It fit the pattern of normal life. So I stepped inside. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. No music, no TV, no familiar sounds of someone else existing in the space with me. I called out his name. No answer. I checked his room. Empty. Bed untouched. Phone gone. That was the moment my attention shifted, not into panic, but into something colder, something alert. I walked toward the living room. The front door was wide open. Cold air moved through the apartment, carrying the faint smell of snow and the distant sound of traffic. The doorframe cast a long shadow across the floor, and I stood there staring at it, trying to figure out how long it had been open. I called my roommate. He answered on the second ring. I asked where he'd gone in such a hurry. He laughed, confused, and told me he hadn't been home in hours. I told him what I'd seen. He went quiet. Then he asked me if anything was missing. That's when I noticed the pattern. Nothing had been taken. No electronics, no wallet, no gifts, no signs of a search. Just an open door. Just movement. Just the certainty that someone had been inside my home without needing anything from it. I locked myself in my room that night. Christmas Eve has a way of thinning the world out. Fewer people, fewer witnesses, longer stretches of quiet.